Good day all. So welcome back to this video number 3 on cultivating humility, right? Cultivated humility, right? So in my video yesterday I would have spoken about a couple things, which is lessening down on whatever intoxicants that you have to lessen down on if you have to engage or self-initiate into a spiritual path, right, or religious path, whatever it be, right? So things required to initiate into that process for yourself, meaning to stay away from certain intoxicants, foods, whatever, right, and so forth, right? So today I want to talk about a couple more things, right? We also talked about equalizing the scene with regard to messengers, prophets, whatever you want to name it, right? People who come on earth to teach certain lessons, right? First up, right? Equalizing that, not saying one messenger, this messenger in the past is higher, or this messenger in the future will be higher than me or you or whatever, right? So today I would like to talk about one or two things, right? First thing being uh not placing you or anybody on a pedestal, right? Also known as idolatry or self-idolatry, right? That's what an idol is, right? An idol is somebody that you place on a pedestal that, hey, nobody could be better than this person, nobody could be greater than this person, right? Nobody could be um, humbler than this person, nobody could be whatever, right? Just nobody could be you, right? Right? You are my idol, and there's nothing likened unto you, right? So we don't want to get into a place where we see, for example, Shah Rukh Khan, right? Shah Rukh Khan is the best actor, and there's nobody in the future who could be better than Shah Rukh Khan, right? Hrithik Roshan is my favorite actor, and it had nobody in the future, or it had nobody in the past who could have beat back Hrithik Roshan, right? We don't want to get to a point where we idolize a person to that extent, right? Neither do we want to get to a position where we idolize ourselves to the extent that, hey, I am the humblest person on earth, I am the best speaker on earth, I am the most well-dressed person on earth, I am the most dignified, distinguished, I have the best reputation on the face of the planet, right? We don't want to get to a point where we idolize ourselves to the point that there's nobody that could be better than me, right? There's nobody that could be better than you, right? So not only in the celebrity world, we're talking about this in the spiritual world as well, right? So this is one of my weak points, right? I will be honest. In the spiritual world, I do have favorite teachers, I do have favorite mentors, gurus, whatever you want to call it, right? So we also don't want to reach a point in the spiritual world where we idolize, find an idol in the spiritual world and worship them as though nothing could be wrong with them, right? Because at the end of the day, these are teachers who would have gone through certain lessons for themselves, gone through certain life experiences like every other human being, right? So nobody is an idol, for real, on earth, who come here to teach certain lessons. Nobody is an idol. You don't idolize a human being and say, hey, you are the most and best glorified thing in my eyes, right? Although we might want to feel that way, or we may yearn to feel that way about a particular person, people, whatever the case be, right? We are encouraged to. Reason being is because everybody in life go through experiences, right? And there's nobody on earth who you cannot learn from, right? There's nobody on earth who you cannot learn from the experience of, right? So that's why we don't want to get to a point of saying, this is my absolute favorite guru. Because when you reach that point, it's like you're turning a blind eye to what anybody else have to offer, right? You are turning a blind eye to the potential lessons that anybody else have to teach, right? So that's the whole concept of what an idol is and why we should not idolize, right? Second thing, right? So being an idol is a concept of being one person, one idol being superior to another idol, right? So we want to reach a point where I can learn from a normal human being, right? I don't have to have any kind of high status for me to, I don't have to watch somebody and any, you can have a million views, right? You could be the most well-dressed person on the face of the planet, right? Although I might want to see you as my idol, you are not my idol, right? I am not your idol, right? So secondly, right, and we're talking about cultivating humility. um we want to address the topic about this whole thing about heaven, hell, because this whole concept is, it generates emotions in us, right? You tell somebody, we all have questions. What happens when I die, right? What happens when I die? So these concepts of heaven and hell, right? I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, that whole concept of hell, it evokes fear, right? Imagine being in a place where you are eternally tormented, right? That evokes fear. I don't want to be living my life in a state of mind that, hey, I'm going to be there forever and ever, amen, right? I don't want to live in that state of fear, right? So another aspect of cultivating humility is to, in the religious community, not have people in that state of fear. Why? Because that state, having people in that state of fear means that you have power over people, and we don't want to get to a point where you have, as human beings on earth, taken it upon yourself to have that kind of power over people, right? So we are here to return each other to source, right? What does that mean, right? Return each other to goodness, right? Not being predestined for fire, predestined to hell, right? Returning each other to source, returning each other to that which is good within us, right? That is what that means, right? So we are cutting down that whole notion of scaring people to death, right? Because you don't want to have people scared on earth and scared for their life in the after earth as well, right? So whatever consequences we face, we're facing them here, right? Whatever consequences we face them here. Whatever happens after death, God alone knows, right? Whatever consequences we face them here, right? So those two aspects again on cultivating humility, right? Cultivating humility on earth, right? As normal day-to-day human beings, helping each other, counseling each other, helping each other to get over and face problems in the religious, spiritual community, and problems within ourselves and each other.